Good morning and thank you for joining this session. We are looking to follow up on some engagement that we've done over the last few months for local area energy planning. So this session, it's intended to be informal. It was slightly short notice in kind of getting it in the diaries, but really appreciate you being here today. We have had quite a few people reach out to ask for copies of the recording so they can hear what Christos and Lynn will be going over in today's session. So we've recently held some webinars and done some research that Christos will go into and then kind of talk about what we'll be doing next steps to support local authorities. And we have Lynn, who's from the wide, so we've got Christos focused very DSO in terms of future energy needs. And then we've got Lynn, who's our strategic coordinator from our stakeholder team. So here to support local authorities, but being aware that local authorities can be time poor, just ensuring that we're maximising our engagement and covering topics that may be of interest. So without further ado, I will hand to Christos.
Thanks, Lottie, and good morning all. Again, thanks for joining with a really short notice. So I'd assume that most of you are familiar with local area energy planning and the engagement we have mainly with Ivan, who is also on the call, who is leading this engagement from our side. So this session is more like to give you what we call an early implementation plan. So we had some webinars on some workshops in December. We had 3 webinars for Greater Manchester, Lancashire and Cumbria areas, where we would summarizing the engagement so far, how it's seen from our side. We also had people from local authorities presenting at these sessions so that we can also reflect how you see that engagement. Following that, we got feedback from your side. We also went through what we called an independent review. So some of the councils were approached by a third party where we carried out a review to understand what comes next. And this session is really to give you feedback on how we processed your feedback and how we intend to act upon your what you said you want from us on the support. So yes, it's some of the things that I've already mentioned. So this process of reviewing our current support on local area energy planning, and this expands to your economic growth plans and how we can facilitate them, which is what we, from a DSO point of view at Electricity North West, focus on, had an oversight by our stakeholder panel. We have a DSO stakeholder panel. This is chaired by Andy Makitos from GMCA. There is representatives from all county councils. And there is also representatives more widely from stakeholders like gas networks, developers, community groups, etc. So we focused on this. What we had here is get your feedback, have also this independent review, and try to understand how we can better support your LAPs and economic growth plans. So there was a third-party report. There was a third-party independent review that delivered this report earlier this month on recommendations reflecting your needs and what you said you wanted more from our side as a support. And this slide pack that we are also going to share with you, and Lottie will also share the recording, is more like an early implementation plan reflecting what you said you need from our side to enhance this LAP support. We will further refine our LAP support plan and commit to review it by December next year. So we'll come with more details, but this is more like to give you a view of this is what we are committed to do, taking into account your feedback. So we had we'll go into detail on what with Lynn on what how we are planning to act on your feedback. We also intend to publish the independent review so you can see in a more detail what local authorities have said on what things worked well, where are areas that we can better support you, there was a wide range. An observation is that there is a wide range of councils that are at different points on their local area energy planning. Also, during the meetings, probably you engaging with Ivan and the team, you've observed that there is, from the council side, there's people from different teams. Some are more technical, some are not. So we try to cover all needs, and we're starting here with those stakeholders, those local authorities that told us that they are at the early stage on the local area energy planning preparation. So they told us that they would benefit from a non-technical overview of what we do as Electricity Northwest. So our action plan is to provide you with, to support early stage local energy planning will include an introduction to Electricity Northwest. And Lynn, I'll pass to you to expand a bit more on that.
Okay, thank you, Christos.
It's okay.
So I'm providing the non-technical aspect of this because I'm not an engineer, and although I have a basic understanding of obviously what we do and what Christos and Ivan and the team do, my role is not to kind of replicate or try and mirror any of that expertise. They're experts in their field for a reason, and I'm just there to try and talk to the local authorities and combined authorities at that early stage of understanding. So to try and give you that non-technical overview of what we do more widely. Obviously, you have one-to-ones and regular sessions with Ivan on your energy planning and economic growth so that we can feed that into our long-term development statements and DFES documents. My role is more kind of linked to ED3 and ED4, so looking at that kind of long-term strategic support, so not just covering early technical overviews in around energy, but it also covers things like our network investment programme, what we do to support our communities in terms of residents and schools and education, also our statutory undertaking role, and then kind of LRF and environment as well. So if you I don't really like to use analogies because there's so many of them, but I'm the hub of a bicycle wheel, if you like, and all of the spokes kind of feed off to all of the wonderful experts like Ivan and Christos. So I can talk to you at a non-technical level, hopefully to try and disseminate some of the acronyms that we have, because we do have an awful lot of those, and to try and just help understand what your level of understanding and progress is, and then what we can do to kind of support you in terms of that. So it's not a one size fits all. Everything will be different compared to your progress and level of understanding and what your requirements are, and we'll look to co-design that with yourselves. So it's going to be a joint partnership to enable us to make sure that the support that we deliver is right for you guys, obviously taking into account that you are time poor and resource poor. We need to make sure that what we're doing doesn't take you away from your day-to-day role. So we're not going to suggest that there's 10 times more events or things like that, and we're not going to send out load more documents for you to read. But what we want to do is to understand what level of engagement you want from us, and then we can look to kind of work with you to put those plans in place. So I think Lottie has already shared with quite a few local authorities the jargon busters and materials that she's already started working on, and they're absolutely brilliant, and we're not looking to replace those. But in terms of some of the more technical heavy documents, it might be that we need to look at those to provide a non-technical executive summary, for instance, and to try and help your teams and your experts within your teams understand what the data actually is and how we can disseminate that for your needs, and also that kind of interoperable system kind of approach. So what data you have doesn't necessarily need to be into a fancy format for our organisation. We need to work together to find a right platform so that we can kind of cross-pollinate, if you like, the data, so that you get what you need and that we get what we need. So aligned to the DSO, obviously this is a DSO function. Our stakeholder engagement obviously does cover other opportunities, and what we would like to kind of introduce this year would be sometime in June or July, a local authority focused event. I know that the DSO event is next week, but this local authority event wants to touch on things that you have said you want to hear from us. So again, it will have quite a big kind of focus in terms of that pre-local area energy planning support, but other support that we offer as a organisation. But again, I want to just reiterate that everything that we want to try and implement within this action plan, these are just ideas that we've come up with based on the research and the findings that you've been telling our third-party support. They might not be the right ones. So this is a real opportunity at the end of this session for you to tell us whether we are thinking along the right lines, or what have we missed, or is it too much, or is it too little, and where that balance is. So if we can move on to the next slide. I think this goes back to you, Christos.
Yeah, so yeah, on the other end, so previous slide was more on councils and local authorities that were at early stages in the local area energy planning. Now there is those that have done the studies. They are either at the process of producing their LAPs, or they are now in the process of getting into the action plans that come out of these LAPs. So our action plan for these stakeholders, for these local authorities, is to continue with workshops, but also target different levels of understanding processes. So in line with your mapping exercise, this will be in line with our stakeholder mapping exercise. And our approach is to introduce peer-to-peer networking for work, technical versus non-technical. I don't know if you want to expand more on this, Lynn.
Yes, sorry, I should have started with that. So I have a tendency to ramble, so put your hand up if I'm going off course a little bit. I get quite excited and passionate about what we do. So before we try and understand what engagement looks like to maximise your time, what I'd like to do is do a stakeholder mapping exercise to understand where we can create some peer-to-peer networks. So could it be that you are talking to a different local authority in a different part of the country or region, in terms of you're both at the same point in your journey. So, you know, what has your counterpart done where you can add benefit, and vice versa. And I think that's quite important to kind of have, because we are obviously experts in terms of, I say we, Ivan and Christos are experts in terms of what we require from a LEAP, but what do you guys require? So trying to create a peer-to-peer networking forum might support some of that. Hi, Scott.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that. I don't know if others on the call are also involved, but we're one of the fast followers from the Buy Innovate UK for a heat network project. And I actually had a meeting with their senior management yesterday, because essentially the programme, it's not coming to an end, but the first phase of it is coming to an end, and there's going to be a bit of a hiatus before other funding is lined up. And they're really at the stage now of needing to look at kind of sustainability, and a lot of that might come from the projects within themselves, and obviously these projects are based all over the country. But it just occurred to me that there's probably other existing networks that are already out there, and it might be a case of trying to find a way to build on those rather than sort of doing anything from scratch, because I think there's a lot of expertise out there, and it might not be that you have to kind of, you know, put all of the weight into that.
That's brilliant, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll definitely look into that. I should say as well, as part of that kind of mapping exercise, and before we do either kind of look at other networks or maybe create something ourselves, what we'd like to do is also cluster some local authorities in terms of not only progress, but also kind of environment and the landscape that you work with. So there's no point in us kind of setting up a group where we've got, you know, a very rural or local authority compared to a very urban local authority, because I don't think there's going to be any kind of benefits there. There could be at a higher level, but in terms of the detail and the approach, I think what we need to do is try and recognise where you are at your journey in the landscape and maybe other factors, and look at creating support, whether that's kind of materials or whether that's forums, or whether we kind of cater our support around other things. So the mapping exercise is going to be done in parallel to this support. So we're not going to not start this support until we've completed that. But it was going to be obviously an ongoing kind of review, particularly matched to the progress that you guys are making and any kind of government updates and things like that. So that's kind of key to, or I see that as kind of key to understanding the broader picture. And then we'll kind of, I think I touched on this just a few moments ago, but in terms of kind of the current materials and documents and things that we've already got from the DSO team, they are, again, and I don't want to kind of replicate these or take away any of the work that we've done. We still need to have those technical documents and those technical webinars, but we need to try and look at kind of bringing them down back to a non-technical level, again, just to kind of broaden that library a little bit in terms of what materials we have got, recognising that some people might get this kind of role that's maybe not as part of their normal job. So understanding, you know, again, your kind of expertise in terms of this and trying to not do I've got an Excel for dummies. It's not that kind of thing, but do you know what I mean? Like, what's the right level of non-technical information that we need to try and create for you? And also, you've asked for some case studies, again, in terms of that peer-to-peer and landscape. But what we don't want to do is take away any resource from our teams that are working on that technical level and look to create those. What we might do is work with Energy Systems Catapult, because they've got a fantastic library on there already. They're experts in this field, they're completely independent and we can trust them. So it might be that we look to incorporate part of our website to make sure that that information is there and available for you without having to go through various different kind of jumps to access that information. We need to create some kind of portal where all of the information that you would need from us is in one place and it's easy to access and it's easy to understand.
Yeah, and if I may add, Lynn, here it's, again, because this is now tailored to the councils that are further ahead in the local energy planning. I mean, again, the tutorials would be focusing on non-technical audience, but even for those local authorities, what the officers were telling us is that we fail to follow all details. So again, it's around using this, as Lynn said, this non-technical wording. Now, when it comes to data, yeah, we have our open data portal. Ivan has gone in details on what data is there, how it can be used, but it's more around understanding how you can better access the data if there's specific data requirements. And in terms of the case studies that Lynn mentioned, I'd say it's not our role to produce the local energy plans, but we can provide any support you want. So we can bring someone like Energy Systems Catapult that I have done the LAP studies for Greater Manchester, for example, for all councils, and now they're working that with Lancaster. They work that with Lancaster as well. But we can also give you insights from the stuff that we have in DFES, because in DFES we have ranges with electricity-related aspects like EVs, heat pumps, renewable generation that meet a net zero future. So you can give insights around what it means for your area to meet net zero in terms of these things. So we can provide you with insights. We can provide you with data and discuss how we can better meet your needs. And data is a wide thing, I'd say. It's more like one of the things we try to do and we intend to continue is to understand what you want out of data. Is it that you want numbers? Do you want an answer? Do you want insights? Do you want a methodology to understand how the numbers are produced? So everything is relevant in this context. Now, stakeholders that have already produced LAP studies, like Greater Manchester councils, for example, and work on the associated plans, told us that they do benefit from more targeted support to better inform the plans, connect low carbon technologies to their networks, and understand how our coordinated network development can timely and cost efficiently facilitate the plans. So our action plan to support these stakeholders will include, let me see, Lynn, how we should start that. Probably you should start with the first one.
Yeah, so I think this is more of an internal action that we need to look at. So we as a statutory undertaker and a distribution network operator, we're asked to review and consult on local authority and regional authority consultations. And I think we do that. There's been some feedback that we don't kind of do it well and we don't maximise that consultation. So it could be that consultation goes into one of our teams and we just look at it from that kind of lens. We don't look at it as an Electricity North West lens. So there's some work to do internally to look at that so that you can get the responses and the support that you need straight away from one kind of request. As part of that, we're looking to increase the contacts available on the website. So obviously on the website currently you've got Christos and Ivan and the team who are visible with contact details and things like that, but there are other kind of account managers within Electricity North West that we feel that you should have access to, whether that's Streetworks, whether that's environment, whether that's, you know, someone to help with kind of adult skills. We want to make that as visible as possible. So there'll be a raft of faces hopefully staring at you on the website pretty soon so that you can go to who you need to and to try and focus that support in one area. We also probably need to look at our attendance in terms of local authority led forums. So and Ivan and the team attend quite a lot. We've got other teams that attend some, and I think there's something internally, as with any kind of large organisation, you go about your job and you action what you're kind of responsible for, and there's, because of, you know, time and resources, it's not, I'm trying to word this in a professional way and not in the way that it's currently forming in my mind. What I'm trying to say is that it's not currently joined up. So again, going back to point one in terms of that review of statutory consultee processes, we need to look at things holistically to make sure that it's a whole kind of system approach to the support that we're providing you. Obviously the DSO stuff is something that's specific and something that the central team will not look to get involved in, because DSO is very separate to the rest of the DNO, and that's a very different type of support and function. But the wider support, I think, is where things are lacking at the moment, and we've had some feedback in terms of what that might look like going forward. There's a few things as well that we've heard in terms of obviously DSO provide the long-term development statements and the DFARS and the kind of Manchester plans and Lancashire plans and things like that in terms of that long-term forecast with kind of the data that you guys provide into us. What we need to get better at is probably providing more of a long-term look. So with the combined authorities, we have regular meetings with their exec team, say, and I know that, Scott, you attended some of our regional events last year where we gave you kind of the broader picture in terms of what does that £2 billion investment look like for the next 5 years. It's fine doing that at that level, but I think one of the issues that we're finding at a local authority level is that information is also quite key in terms of how you might want to develop a local area energy plan, or how you might want to kind of structure your regeneration plans. So we need to find ways of sharing that information with you again. And it could be that you come to an existing event, or it's part of the current newsletters that we kind of share with you. But it's important that on the back of that information sharing, you've got a platform to kind of contact us to ask those questions. Again, these are just kind of suggestions at the moment. So it would be great to understand, like I said earlier, what type of, how much engagement is good engagement and how much is like, come on now, back off, you do my head in type thing, or you're not engaging enough. And I'm not going to talk about the strategic optioneering support, so I'll pass back to Christos for that one.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I mean, yeah, just trying to put things simple. I mean, you told us that what worked really well is the bespoke engagement. So we used the LAP meetings led by Ivan as a one-stop shop, where we would bring also people from the business to talk around different things that you'd be interested. So understand around flexibility, service opportunities, give you insights on available capacity to connect assets, things like that. But in December, we also presented a summary of things where we went beyond what the support was meant to do. So supporting your local plans, supporting climate emergency plans, local authorities and all that. So it's around expanding that and understanding what additional support you want for your processes that are linked with our side. So how we can better facilitate your plan. So it's part of getting more into that. And now this is a different landscape. There's a lot of acronyms. As we said in the beginning, we have now the NESO, the National Energy System Operator, that is responsible for whole system coordination. So they are also producing the regional energy system plans. They expect that the local area energy plans will also be fed into that. So there is a connections reform in the wider electricity industry that changes how it aims to accelerate how demand and generation can be faster connected to electricity networks. So there's things going on. We need to better explain them through jargon busters again, things like that, but at the same time get into more detail on what bespoke plan you have that you want bespoke support from our side as well. And when it comes to strategic optioneering, the way we understood it is that it's strategic optioneering from your side. So you have your own strategic plans. LAPs are part of that, but it's also part of your planning on economic growth, on creating jobs in your areas, affordable housing, all that. So it's more around us making the commitment that, yeah, okay, we can give you some support. So for small stuff, we bring the pre-connections support team to give you some options. For bigger stuff, we can get them well in advance into our planning to release capacity. But what additional insights do you want? What is it that you want from our side more? So we need probably to expand these surgery sessions so we can commit. We're looking to commit more resources to get into your processes and advise you on insights and things that you want for your plans. And in terms of refreshing the LAP plans, there have been stakeholders that told us they want to support to refresh their local area energy plans due to changes in the net zero landscapes. So technologies have changed since last 5 years than when some studies were produced. There's a different political and economic landscape. So we intend to make more data to help these local authorities. We intend to make more data accessible and expand explanatory sessions and enhance our open data portal so that include data sets that can better support local area energy plans. And this includes also third-party data. So we look to understand if we can make more data available. If I may add a personal comment, I don't want to know if you want to add, Lynn, anything, but let me say before passing over to you that I think there's an area also of confusion, and this comes back to providing some explanations, because we understand some local authorities, when they talk, they rightly refer to LAPs as studies. Other local authorities refer to LAPs as portals that have data. It's more like the former. So the local area energy plans is start from studies, but it's really important for LAP coordinators, for local authorities and your developers to have access to data. So at the moment, we try to enhance the offer on data from our side. So things that we are better positioned to provide, like capacity in the network at local level, things like what comes from plants. It's more around us trying now to put more data on the open data portal, additional data that you might find useful. And this might go even to third-party data. So buildings, data on buildings, data beyond our core processes. Lynn?
Yeah, I think again, going back to an earlier kind of comment, this is just some proposed actions at the moment that we might think could action some of the feedback that we've received as part of this research. It will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. It has to be co-designed. It has to support what you're doing to enable the work that Christos and his team can deliver to make sure that that capacity is there when and where you need it.
And then we have any, yes, we have, this is more like a summary slide. So in summary, local authority reps told us that we need to continue having the key contacts, having the bilaterals every 3 months. Well, minimum of as 3 per year, so every 4 months, but also have sub-regional events and continue providing data and insights. Now, the enhanced software includes formalization of bilaterals. We have our DSO conference coming next week. We need to optimize our website. So Lynn, you mentioned, for example, at the beginning that we need to put key account managers on websites so that you can very easily say, oh, I need to talk to ENW about Streetworks. I'm making a phone call to this person or arrange a meeting with them. I need to give plans earlier ahead of need so that we can do coordinated network development. Yeah, we can give a call to Ivan. And also have user tools, so video tools, case studies, glossary, so stuff that you can check at your own time. It's easy to understand and digest the complexity of the industry, because energy planning, it becomes a very complex landscape these days. But if you get deeper into that, you can understand that at the end of the day, it's basic principles. So try to put these basic principles. And we are not suggesting it's something that we only need to provide here. I mean, we can co-develop that glossary as well, and we can also find you can help us also in telling us these are the areas that we want to understand more. These are the areas that are out of interest. A lot of non-technical stuff, as Lynn explained. So we also need to get to know LAs better. So this is something that local authority stakeholders told us that, okay, that's fine. They pretty much told us, oh, these meetings with the DSO team helped us because different teams across a local authority could be in the same meeting, and we could also talk with our own colleagues and have a discussion. But at the same time, they told us, oh, you need also to understand how things work from outside, so from local government point of view. So it's more around understanding that, improving that understanding. I don't know if you want on the non-technical side, Lynn, to add anything. So it's the jargons, it's the introduction to other ENW tips. So it's more around understanding both sides better. In terms of engagement capacity, yeah, we need to respond to increased demands from your side. We appreciate there is, as part of the local area energy planning, beyond other things going on at your level. I mean, talking about economic growth, for example, data centers is a new thing, or for local area energy planning, there is opportunities for local authorities to get more involved in district heat networks. So there is increased needs from your side. So it's more around helping you with your strategic options. So you also told us you want capacity visibility, more around capacity in the network. So yes, we can give you more insights. We can continue on that. We can give you also insights on new tools coming. We can give more support from the pre-connection teams. We should better explain processes. So we try to do it already on highlighting how giving data to our site sooner help us release capacity on time and at lower impact on energy bill payers. But there is more that needs to be done on that area. And a focus on connections. Inevitably, that's a key. That's a top area. Sorry, that's one of the first things that local authorities want to talk to us about, and it's about, oh, I want to connect these things. Can you help us? A lot of these things that we do it's around connections. So this engagement on local area energy planning and economic growth plans is around getting these plans from your side and helping with that. Now, this LAP funding and cash grants, apology, this came as a third-party recommendation. So it's not something that treat this as not an ENW point. I mean, this is for a separate discussion. And in terms of digitalization, yeah, there is local authorities told us that they want, this bespoke engagement works well, but they would welcome an offer for more data advanced. So more data is something that we can do, but we'd be keen to understand more around what data you want. Is it data that you want, or tools, or so what it is? Because some stakeholders said, oh, we don't want you to give me numbers, just tell me yes or no on that one. or just tell me how this data has been produced because I cannot use it. So it's a wider thing here. And these are the slides. Again, this is an early implementation plan, just to give you an early view of our feedback just after your feedback on this LAP engagement. And at this stage, this was the last slide, I think. So yeah, we can use, we have another 10 minutes, I think, in this call. I'd say this is your chance to give any direct feedback. Again, as Lynn said, how this sounds. Do you expect more? Do you expect less? Was there anything missing? So it's a real opportunity to help us shape how we can improve the support.
Just before we go into that section, typically we will stop recording when it comes to kind of free open conversations so we can hear and people feel comfortable with that. Would you like me to do that? As we've had a few people ask for the recording, do you want to share what your thoughts are, or would you like me to turn the recording element off right now? Easy breezy. Okay, we'll leave it on because it might be that you ask relevant questions that can help others at various different local authorities. So I'll keep it on. Thank you.
Any other wants to make a start on anything? Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Christos. From my point of view, I've been onto the data portal. It would be really useful if someone could do a kind of 101 in navigating through the data portal. There's a lot of data there. I said in the chat, I just don't have the time to go in and find out what's there myself and work out what's useful for me and what isn't. So it doesn't have to be a one-to-one or anything like that. It could just be a video, literally, of someone going through and showing what's there and what it does. I'm not an engineer. I'm a biologist. So, you know, sometimes trying to understand the data becomes a little bit more challenging, but I am quite numerate, so I have the confidence to go in and do it. But I just think just some help navigating through that website would be super, super useful. And I'm sure would save an awful lot of people a lot of time and frustration. Second thing before, well, I've got the table, as it were. You talked about rural areas and urban areas, Lynn, I think beforehand. It would be great to just bear in mind places like Westmoreland and Furness. We are colossal in terms of a council area, and of course we have relatively built-up areas like Barrow and Kendal, but you know, I think we're the second least densely populated council in England, so we've got those multiple hats on. So like when we're trying to do things like heat networks, we're fairly confident we'll get them in Barrow and Kendal and Penrith. We're just trying to procure that at the moment. It's going to be a lot more challenging for our more sort of rural areas. So bearing in mind, we're probably going to have to look at the community energy side of things as well. Would be really useful for us. So we are sitting here with multiple hats on, and I'm going to shut up now and let somebody else get on.
Thank you, that's useful.
Lotte, you want to respond on that, right? I think we are preparing some videos on exactly what Andrew is saying.
Yeah, so just addressing the data portal. This week we've published a data education hub, so that has a video kind of walking you through the open data portal. So I can address the first bit for you. So I popped a link in the chat. We will start promoting that through various channels in our comms, but it was published this week, so you're the first people that we're singing about it to. So, and if you have any feedback or if there's anything else that you'd like to see on there, we're more than happy to add to it.
Or we can have after that. I mean, we can always do one-to-ones or by a bespoke bilateral, Andrew, if there's anything more specific. So if you want to get deeper into some specific data sets, yeah, we can always feel free always to offline raise that. We can find the right people in the teams to talk you through that.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I'll take a look at what you've done first before I bother anybody, because you might have already done it and answered all my questions anyway. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
The second point, so you were making the point on your area, the particularities in the area. So I missed the question, Andrew, the second one.
Oh, it was just
Was there a question?
It wasn't really a question. It was more of a comment, really, that some of us are not urban or rural. We have a lot of rural with elements of urban. So we need, if we want to split those into two approaches, which I think is quite difficult to do because it's a continual thing, but we as a council need to think about both approaches there. So, you know, we and places like Cumberland as well, you know, we don't fit easily into one of those boxes. We're different to a lot of councils. That's all I wanted to raise there.
Thanks, Andrew. Henry?
I think it's Jason first.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, thank you, Christos. Yeah, thanks for your presentation. It's really useful. Yeah, because I'm from GMCA, actually, our team has many engagement with ENW. Yeah, in terms of maybe different G99 application for different individual projects for our partners, and also particularly, I'm actually deeply engaged with the team in ENW. Yeah, for the connection charge for the heat network. Yeah, because for the heat network, I can see that is quite a has a big discussion also within this event. Yeah, I can see that Rochdale is also here because Rochdale is one of our partner. Yeah, in GM that we support with. So my question is that is there any interaction or any linkage between the engagement activity that you mentioned, or is it only particularly for the LAEAP? Yeah, will they share with different programs such as heat network? Yeah, within your organization.
So it's more like what we call it. We call it early engagement, Jason, and this is what the DSO does with stakeholders as part of this LAP support. So beyond LAP and decarbonization plans, we also focus on economic growth plans, on housing, so on all plans, because at the end of the day, we need to release network capacity to facilitate all the plans. Now, the real value of this engagement in terms of facilitating these plans is that we can get this data ahead of connection applications so that we can plan the network in wide areas. We avoid what we call piecemeal expansion that comes from connections. So in simple terms, for example, in Greater Manchester, we have a lot of examples where instead of operating several substations, we put a substation in the middle of the area and we transfer load, but it's because we have this information around decarbonization plans, economic growth. So we release the capacity and it's ready when these plans come. And at the same time, the bill payers don't pay a fortune because they don't pay their contribution through those charges on multiple substations. So that's the real value of this engagement. And at the same time, because this is on LAP support, it's bi-directional. So it's for us here to help you with insights, with data, with whatever else you want from our side, because we understand local authorities coordinate local energy plans, economic growth plans for the regions. So as a body that facilitates the electricity capacity for all these plans, we can give you insights at the same time. So it's more around understanding what additional support you need. And DSO is a part of ENW that aims to be the voice of stakeholders. So traditionally, if I may just use this as a very short definition of DSO, it used to be at the beginning of the concept that is the part of the business that manages a conflict of interest. So the DNO side puts more copper in the ground, increases the RAF. The DSO tries to promote more flexibility services, so to release the network capacity. But now the latest thinking is, reinforcement is not always a bad thing if it's done properly. It's more around reflecting what's best value for stakeholders in terms of facilitating local plans, not having impact on energy bill payers. and all that. So this is why this process is key for us, because as a DSO it needs to be stakeholder led. We need to engage better with your side. We appreciate that there is also fatigue from your side. You don't want, as Lynn said, multiple meetings. You don't want us to give you a second job, but how can we really improve it? This is how we want to navigate, and this is our early thoughts on trying to improve that process.
Yeah, thanks for the idea, because the data that you are going to share may be really useful for other programs that GMCA is now running with our GM level. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, thanks for
Thanks,
that.
Jason. Yeah, Henry.
Hi, thanks everyone. So I'm Henry. I'm the EV policy advisor for Rochdale Council, standing in for Mark Brammer, who couldn't make it today. I just wanted to kind of second build on Andrew's point around the data, the open data portal, and it's good that there's an educational document here, basically to give more detail as to the data that's included and how it can be used. In terms of my experience with it, I think that one of the improvements that could be made is around making it more real time, or at least when it isn't real time, making it more obvious that it isn't. So as a given example, we're installing, or at least planning on installing, some chargers on the site, and using the capacity data set for the substation, it effectively implies there's almost no capacity and no headroom spare available. And then, but when we do a budget quote or a budget estimate request, we get told that we have capacity to install. So it's understanding exactly whether or not the substation data is up to date. There's going to be an upgrade, because I know there's a lot of other developments happening simultaneous to ours, or whether or not there's some discrepancy between the two. It's effectively just understanding these sorts of things so that it's easier for me to plan ahead. If I'm making assumptions based on the current capacity, but there's already an upgrade planned, then knowing about that upgrade would be really useful for me to kind of plan going forward. And then kind of secondary to that, on the LEAP, as Jason was saying, we're part of Greater Manchester, so we're quite lucky in having had a Greater Manchester-led LEAP scheme done in 2022. But a lot has changed in Rochdale's plans for EV and for heat pumps since 2022. And so potentially a refresh, or at least having kind of regular meetings to brief Ivan, for instance, on upcoming developments would be really, really useful. We've got a lot of essentially private stakeholders who are attempting to get chargers installed, essentially, at a lot of our car parks. And that's a very fluid, developing a series of opportunities, which are not exactly in line with the kind of charging hub locations that are identified as part of LEAP. And there are also some locations in the LEAP that we are now moving away from due to changes in land usage and strategy and plans since 2022. So it'd be really good to get a refresh on that. That's my 2 points.
Thanks, Henry. I'd say it really helps us if you highlight the issues and what you want to do. So you mentioned that your first question, capacity constraints, and I can say straight away that really depending on the timescale of your plans, if you are at the stage of putting the plans now, it's not something that you have already developed the site, the development is ready, and you want to connect. This engagement through the LAP support allows us get the data and build the capacity. So the capacity might not be here now, but we're going to provide that capacity. So through this early engagement, we can do it. But on the other hand, if you're down the line that you're ready to connect, we can have a bespoke engagement to understand what options you have to connect. Because we are not part of the connections team, but we are the body that can help shape how connections can help you. We're the body that can give you also an options, because there is tools now. We have what we call, I'll try not to go into technical things, but we have our active network management that this year managed to facilitate 3 connections and bypass transmission constraints and other things by using more advanced technology that we now have in place, as automating our network management and real-time operations. So this means that from a customer point of view, we can give you quotes that tell you, if you know what, under these limitations, we can connect you faster. And down the line, after 2-3 years, we can make this capacity firm. So across all times of the year, there won't be any limitation on your access to electricity. So it's these things that we can also give you as part of this ongoing engagement. These are things that we build. It's investment also from our side that take time. And now we've started, for example, with with A&M, with active network management. We have real cases now. So we need to come back to you and give you options and say, look, these are new options to connect. Are these appealing? Are these not? Here is give you more like help you. This is also part of the strategic optioneering, giving you more like options, but it really helps us if you talk to us about your problems, what you need. And you mentioned the redraft, you rely on data, just for personal experience, because I mean, people like me and Ivan are technical, right? So we give technical data. Sometimes local authorities, your developers ask for data. We give them data. They don't know how to use it. It really helps us if you tell us how you want to use it, so that we can give you bespoke data for what you want to do. As a comment, and now coming to the redraft, probably one thing that we can help you with is explain to us the challenges, because we can give you data, it's numbers, but a megawatt is different. A true demand is different from measured demand, is different from net demand. So depending on what you want to assess, we can guide you better on what data you can use.
That sounds really
So
useful.
I'd say the challenge is really to find a way that we don't overload you with additional times, additional events, but better understand your needs so that we can have more targeted and bespoke support.
Right, thank you. That's really, really useful. I think in terms of just kind of a final point on this, in terms of that specific location and the way that we want to use the data, it's very much more around one, understanding the current capacity on the site. So can we connect now, essentially? Or is it that there's already a substation upgrade planned, in which case we can connect in the future? Or would we have to effectively foot the bill for the substation upgrade? Those are essentially the three main things. So in this specific case, because I'm being told that in one data set that there's no capacity, and again, I understand that I might be misunderstanding the exact way that it's done. And on the other one, I'm being told that there is existing capacity. I don't know whether or not, I don't know which one is more in line with what the situation is going to be when we get to connect. And I also don't know whether or not we're being told that we can connect on the assumption there's going to be a substation upgrade, which might take a year to 2 years to occur. So we might get told, oh, we can connect, but in reality, we will be able to connect once the substation upgrade has gone in, that's been paid for by, say, a school development. And then, it takes 2 years essentially to get the charges on the ground. So it's those sorts of things that we would like. So maybe a data set which shows not just obviously the current capacity, but maybe just an understanding of where substation developments are already planned might be useful. A bit more forward-facing data, I think.
Yes, probably we need a session, Henry, to pretty much guide you on what data is there, because there is data sets on forecast of capacity headroom. But when it comes to the connections application, there is not only this capacity headroom that is taken into account, it's also the connections pipeline in the same region. So we're putting now some plans on having a really ambitious project. We do a lot of capital investment. We call it Foresight. It's going to automate pre-connection assessments, taking into account the latest both forecasts and connections pipeline locally and the sites and some more advanced. So it gives you an answer that is closer to the detailed connection study and also gives you a view of the future. Now, it will take us a bit more to develop that. I mean, we started this year. It will take us at least a year to get into a point of having some good tools. But meanwhile, there's a lot of things and data that we already produce, we can share and insights. But again, it would help us. This, I suppose, is also part of Sergey's sessions where we can also talk to you through the data, what is available, how you can use it, etc.
Yeah, and it will be excellent, Henry. We'll get sort of information exchange on both sides, because you mentioned you have some program of plans of what you're going to build, but what important for us, we can release the information, when capacity will be there and so forth. But also from your side, if you can share your plans, what you're going to build, when you're going to build, what the certainty, that's actually helps, because the key point is get the alignment with this, like your plan and our plan. And that's what probably with Levi is. Are you talking about Levi? You're talking about the charges for the public on the public car parks.
Kind of opportunity sites, but yeah, obviously Levi would feed into all of this as well. So I think having this discussion at a different meeting would be great. But yes, I agree. I think we should have back-to-back coordination twins.
Yeah, something we'll be looking for. I think there was quite a lot of ask from local authorities across our patch about some Levi tools, about Levi specific, and that's something, you know, with my colleague probably, but just we're talking about it and looking to set up, you know, like a Pat, you know, more technically focused on Levi, what's there and options and how it can support the best.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So we have run over, so sorry about that. Just before we kind of round up and call it a day, are there any final questions or thoughts that anyone would like to share? No? Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We do really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.